Мы предельно рады приветствовать вас на сегодняшнем конгрессе, и для нас большая честь выслушать ваш сегодняшний доклад. Слово вам.
The development prospects of Central Asia. Let me ask a very basic question. Does Central Asia exist?
Yes.
Does it exist in a real sense in terms of development and economics and as a regional entity? Or is it just a group of 5 countries, or 6 if you include a historic member, Afghanistan, but not as a single unit? Is it too small or too remote to be effective in the modern world as a unit? Why do we raise this question? Because we know that relations among the countries of the region have not been good. We know, looking backward, to the painful process of making borders within the region that took place in the 1920s. We know the Tsarist history of the region, with the events taking place next year, the 100th anniversary of the great insurrection that occurred in 1916. We know of the difficult times before that. And if you look at a map, if you look at a European map, where is Central Asia? Way off on the edge in the east. If you look at a Chinese map, where is it? It's way off on the edge, on the west. If you look at a Russian map, it's way down in the south. In every case, it is peripheral. It is not central. So it is worth asking, is there a Central Asia? Or is it instead a weak and insignificant region which should follow the advice of the Japanese proverb, which says, move under the shadow of a big tree. Moving under the shadow of a big tree can bring about, can cause conflict as well as prevent conflict. The longer history of Central Asia's subordination to outsiders has not been favorable. And every case, whether it's Persia or Greece or Arabs or Chinese or Mongols or Russian, in every case, the region has eventually asserted itself, its own identity. But let me suggest that our conception is wrong, the conception of the region. Imagine a different map in which this region is the center, not the periphery. And what do you find then? Very interesting. That it is the only region in Eurasia that is in direct contact and has been in direct contact for 3,000 years with all the other great centers of civilization in Eurasia. It is the only region with direct contact with the Middle East, with direct contact with China, with direct contact with India, with direct contact with Europe. It is truly a center. in that obvious respect. Now, we talk about the Silk Road, but the Silk Road was only one connection, and that was between China and the West. There was also the Great Indian Road, which came right through here, and which connected India with the Middle East and with the West. For example, we talk about Arabic numbers. Arabic numbers are Indian numbers. The concept of zero, the concept of negative numbers, came to the Middle East, to the Arab world, and then to Europe, not directly from India, but through Central Asia. And the great highways, the great routes came from the south. These routes that connected Central Asia and India were even more important than the routes that connected Central Asia and Europe. So this is a very rich region in terms of contact. But let me stress something very important. Everybody is talking about transport today. Oh, Central Asia will be a new center of transport. Wonderful. But 1,000 years ago, it was not merely the passive territory over which trade passed. They were not passive 1,000 years ago. Let me give an example. Paper. Well, we know paper was supposed to be invented in China. Well, Chinese paper was made out of bamboo and mulberry leaves. Imagine paper made from bamboo and mulberry. It would be like cardboard. You couldn't write on it. You couldn't really print on it well. Central Asians saw this product and said, you know, we must reinvent it. We have plenty of cotton here. Let's make paper out of cotton. And as a result of this reinvention, the best paper in the world for 500 years came from Central Asia, not China. And if you go to any archive in the Middle East, go to any archive in Europe, ask to see the earliest documents and the best documents. All of them are written on paper from Central Asia. And this reinvention shows that Central Asia was an active participant, not simply a passive territory through which trade passed. Central Asia was a focus of invention, of high technology. Crucible steel, which is an essential invention, was developed in Central Asia. All the best crucible steel in the Middle Ages came from Central Asia. It was a huge manufacturing center. This is not passive, this is active development. And more than that, it ran its own currency. The valuta of the Middle Ages was often currency from Central Asia, including, of course, the Samanids, but also the Karakhanids from this region. The currency minted right here on the territory of Kyrgyzstan, you can find in Sweden and Sri Lanka. Imagine, they were managing an international currency from here. Now, the same trade that they were engaged in, transport, they were also trading and transporting ideas. This is very important. The ideas that they transported changed the world. or that they invented, changed the world. I mentioned mathematics. Well, what about Al-Khwarizmi from Western Uzbekistan, who really reinvented algebra and developed it as a, and by the way, Al-Khwarizmi's book on algebra, written more than 1,000 years ago in Central Asia, does not use a single number. There's no formula. Why? Because he wanted to convey the conception of algebraic thinking. And he succeeded. He wrote it for practical people, not for academics. And practical people read his book and translated it into all languages. And the field of trigonometry, spherical trigonometry, the threshold, even to the threshold of non-Euclidean geometry. Non-Euclidean geometry, which is what Lobachevsky in the middle of the 19th century developed. Hayam got to the edge of that 1,000 years ago. Now, it would be nice to have time to share some of the astonishing achievements of great thinkers from this region 1,000 years ago. We could talk about medicine, chemistry, history, botany, geology, field after field. The inventions. Let me just mention one that I rather like. Biruni, from what is now born in what is now Western Uzbekistan, worked for many years in what is now northern Turkmenistan, then ended up working in Afghanistan and even briefly in Lahore in Pakistan. Biruni, sitting in Ghazni. Ghazni is not the center of the world today. But sitting in Ghazni, Biruni, almost exactly 1,000 years ago, calculated the circumference of the Earth more accurately than anyone did till the 17th century. And he did this with equipment that any of us could make this afternoon. He then calculated the location on that globe of every known latitude and longitude, every city that was known. And he noticed that only 2/5 of the globe was occupied by land.
Mr. Starr, you have 5 remaining minutes.
This went from the western edge of Europe and Africa to the eastern edge of Asia. He asked, what's in the rest? And his answer was, there must be more land. There must be a continent or more continents out there. He then asked, are these inhabited? And he said, well, we know everyone in the latitude, in Europe and Asia, people live as far north as Scandinavia and Russia. They live as far south as the equator. So if these unknown continents out in the ocean are uninhabited, they would have to be north of that or south of that. He said, we have no hypothesis to explain this. Therefore, in 1025 AD, he concluded the only hypothesis for now is that there is one or more continents out there in the ocean and that they were inhabited. I could give you many more examples of such achievements from Central Asia, but discovering America isn't that. Now, let me ask quickly, what is the cause of this? Why did it happen? Well, it happened because of geography, contact, but it also happened because of intellectual openness. These were people who were open to every idea. They were, in religion, pluralistic. There were Muslims, there were Christians, there were Buddhists, there were Zoroastrians among them, there were skeptics, and there were atheists.
Mr. Starr, I'm sorry, we have only 2 minutes.
Yes, and because of this pluralism, it was active intellectually. What ended this? What ended it was the closing of the mind. It wasn't the Mongols, it wasn't Portuguese sailors, it was the closing of the mind ended it. So let me conclude. What about today? People say this is impossible to talk about this region because it's divided between Turks and Persians. It's not true. It's divided between former Kachevniki or nomads and urban people. No, they were all interactive. They were all interdependent, and they knew you couldn't be a nomad without the cities. You couldn't live in a city without the nomads. So I ask you in ending, why not think about this golden age as a model? Why not overcome this intellectual mankurtism that has grown up in Central Asia and rediscover this past and find in this past an inspiration? Because, as the old saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, you will never get there. Thank you.
Давайте не буду больше занимать времени, и сразу хотелось поговорить, что возьму ровно 5 вопросов.
Все презентации были очень интересные и много узнали. Но у меня есть один вопрос and 2 statements. That is one question I would like to pose to one of my colleagues from India. I being from India and following this region, I would like to ask and share 2 viewpoints. One is that my colleague from India has very rightly pointed out a number of issues. But I just wanted to know that when he was building up the vision and scenarios till 2050, he has mentioned a number of countries' relationship. But as you know that Indian Prime Minister was here in India in the month of July, and a number of agreements have signed, and India has got a very good relationship with this region, and number of cooperations are already taking place with this region for many years, for the last 20 years since their independence. So can you please tell that how do you see India and Central Asian countries' relationship coming up in next 50 years, and specifically you feel in which particular direction and which particular segments will develop more? That is one. And my viewpoints about his open regionalism.
We'll take just questions.
Just one moment. It's very important, I think, because when we are talking about in the Silk Route Research Center, then we must mention that transport corridors, they are opening up the region, and the new regionalism has already started developing, because all this connectivity is connecting the regional countries through roads, railways, as well as through sea. So this is already started, and we can see this is a bright future. And also about the diversification of the strategies, I would like to say that diversification has already started, because 20 years they have understood that energy is not the only aspect for the growth. So in non-oil sectors, the development and the strategies have already been following. So we could see a very great opportunities for this region. Thank you.
У меня вопрос к господину Бабаджану Бахтияру. Вот для нас в Кыргызстане после выборов остались 3 актуальные проблемы. Это инфляция цен, девальвация сома и ситуация с религиозным экстремизмом. Вот я хотел бы знать ваше мнение, как эксперта. Ситуация именно с экстремизмом, радикализацией в нашем регионе и прогноз. Например, москвичи считают, что Ферганская долина вопрос решенный, в ближайшее время там обязательно будет мощный взрыв. Ваше.
Вы процитировали очень четко президента Нурсултана Назарбаева о суверенитете, об отделении политэкономики. Но, к сожалению, это были те слова, которые он говорил на фоне растущего недовольства своего населения именно первыми последствиями от вступления в Евразийский союз. То есть, и какие вы видите перспективы, то есть, кроме вот этих таких образных, да, вот открытия многомиллионного рынка и так далее, потому что здесь сидят исследователи, и мы знаем, что политика, она неотделима от экономики, то есть экономическая составляющая, она, в принципе, и составляет часть суверенитета. И здесь сидят бизнесмены, которые видят 20% девальвацию национальной валюты, закрытие, как бы сокращение рынка и сокращение экономики в целом. Спасибо.
Давайте ответим на первую серию вопросов.
Как бы сказать, три проблемы объединили в одну. Ну, на самом деле, действительно, я вот сейчас подумал, как правило, эти проблемы возникают одновременно, часто так бывает. Но давайте так, из вашего опыта Кыргызстана, вы знаете, как бы эти две революции, но религиозные деятели туда неофициальные и неофициальные тоже не вторгались, насколько я знаю ситуацию. Да? Поэтому причины я не вижу, я не напрасно говорю об информационной панике, мы часто ее создаем сами, что вот это опасно, вот это опасно. Ну, я не вижу опасности. Вот, даже вот сейчас последние исследования по поводу вашего Хизб-ут-Тахрир на юге, они очень сильно оторваны от материнской партии как идеологически, так и физически. Поэтому
это что-то другое, это местная локальная форма. Ну, я не знаю, можно всех обвинить таким образом в терроризме, это я считаю, надо быть очень осторожным. Поэтому большая ответственность не только на политиках, на экспертах и вот визави тех, кто внутри, я говорю о внутриконфессиональном терпимости тоже, что есть разные формы, и сразу говорят, они плохие, а мы вот, стало быть, вывод-то какой, значит, мы правильные, мы хорошие. Надо, я считаю, вот, быть осторожным. И революции на религиозной почве я не ожидаю. Ну, по крайней мере, я не думаю, что она будет. И она обычно приходит потом, когда в результате инфляции, экономических проблем, еще каких-то проблем, когда вот взрывается, потом, может быть, это приобретет. Но причиной это не станет. Спасибо.
Спасибо. Молодой человек не представился, но очень хороший вопрос. По идее, этот вопрос надо задавать тем политикам, которые ныне у власти. Но тем не менее я отвечу. Давайте посмотрим на карту мира. Где находится Кыргызстан? Вот где мы находимся? Не только в центральной. Как у нас развиты коммуникации и так далее. Сейчас, вы знаете, весь мир интегрируется. Европейский Союз. Сейчас новые интеграционные процессы пошли. Недавно вот Транс-Тихоокеанское партнерство создано, вы знаете. Значит, трансатлантическое партнерство создается. И мы, если хотите, я вам откровенно скажу вот при всей публике, мы вынуждены, почему мы вынуждены Евразийский Союз? Нам деваться некуда. А то, что вы говорите, эти проблемы абсолютно правы. Вот представьте, в 2011 году было заявлено, и палец о палец власть действующая ничего не сделала. Согласитесь, да? Не разъяснила ни населению и не подготовила. За 4 года можно было создать средний и малый бизнес, поднять на какой-то уровень. Не строить какие-то эфемерные дороги, которые экономический эффект будет через 10-20 лет, если будет в лучшем случае. Или там еще какие-то объекты. Поэтому я думаю, что проблема в том, что наше население не готово и экономика не готова. Я здесь абсолютно согласен, и сейчас будут трудности. Теперь, что касается, вот я начал говорить, что про глобальные процессы. Представьте на одну минуту, если мы не вступаем в Евразийский экономический союз. Хорошо, мы вступили в торговый, ВТО, да, помните? И что это ВТО нам дало? Ничего не дало, да? По большому счету.
Цены у вас дешевле.
Не, ну, да, мы за счет реэкспорта все дешевле. А если сейчас реэкспорт, у нас поднимется автоматически. Сейчас мы пока стоим на месте, знаете почему? Потому что нету у нас ни импорта, ни экспорта. Поэтому, уважаемые друзья, если мы не вступаем в Евразийский экономический союз, мы вообще в тупике оказываемся. У нас тогда бензин, энергоносители пойдут вверх, товары, которые через казахские и российские железные дороги подорожают и так далее. Поэтому сейчас ситуация такая, что вот я в своем докладе, мне просто не дали, там много говорил об этом, что ожидания населения большие, как на самом деле, я этот кусочек вам зачитал, будет покажет время. И я думаю, что сейчас еще не поздно, надо те финансы. Вы знаете, допустим, в прошлом году Россия дала 120 миллионов долларов на поддержку бюджета страны. Знаете об этом? А в итоге что получилось? Мы все проели, правильно? А создаем такие предприятия, которые в Карабалте, вы помните, которые евро-2, евро-3 на Афганистан работают, экологию портят. И хвалимся, что у нас есть такие инвестиции. Поэтому сейчас, когда мы в Евразийский экономический союз надо было вступать, я считаю, это первое. Второе, нам нужен прагматизм. Я абсолютно с вами согласен, что категория политика и экономика, они взаимосвязаны и взаимозависимы. И если будет у нас нормальная система государственного управления и нормальные, значит, прагматичные политики, и молодежь, которые здесь вот хвалят наши западные партнеры, будут серьезные перемены и реформы в системе государственного управления, в экономике, я думаю, что мы тогда максимально получим эффект от Евразийского экономического союза.
Спасибо огромное.
У меня такой вопрос. Может ли все-таки ислам, как религия, стать интегрирующей силой между центральноазиатскими странами?
Well, thank you for presenters for such an interesting presentation. So my question goes for Dr. Frederick Starr. So you were talking about the development prospects in Central Asia. So my question is, you have presented a very interesting term like intellectual marxism, and how you conceptualize, like, what is like conceptualization of this concept like intellectual marxism within the Central Asia? And second question goes about the, since you are talking about the Central Asia development prospects, well, is still Central Asia? Is it, or we are currently talking about the, not Central Asia, but Eurasian context? Fine, this is my two questions, thank you.
Вопрос. На больную мозоль наступает. Ну вот, вы знаете, если хотеть объединиться, в общем, можно и без ислама, как говорится, объединиться. Тем более у нас ислам разнообразный, может быть в этом разнообразии сила. Но вот я боюсь, что не ислам как объединяющее начало, он работает скорее на уровне, может быть, простых мусульман, но не больше. Нужна воля политиков в первую очередь, конечно. Если политики захотят, это в силу структуры наших режимов. Вот. Поэтому здесь в первую очередь, конечно, политики. Во вторую очередь мы сами, в том числе вот уляма, то есть богословы, которые должны вместе объединяться и говорить, что мы единоверцы, хоть и разные, но мы единоверцы, наверное. Вот. Поэтому я повторяю, что здесь это вопрос очень сложный, сами понимаете, что объединение, эти амбиции взаимные, ислам не поможет этому, понимаете? Вот, это может быть скептически, но нужна какая-то эволюция, нужно понять, что мы нужны друг другу, иначе мы не нужны остальному миру, иначе сложно. Спасибо.
Maybe I was too pessimistic in using the term intellectual Mankurtism. I believe that today
in 2015, there is the beginning of a new regional mentality in Central Asia. Let me give some examples at the presidential level. If you go to the capital of Turkmenistan, you will find a new park in the center of the city. In that park are statues of all the great thinkers of the region. And I asked the president, do you realize that these are not Turkmen, all of them? And his answer, President Berdi Muhamedov, was very impressive. He said, yes, of course, but they are они наше взаимное наследство. That's a wonderful answer. A year ago in Uzbekistan, in Samarkand, President Karimov had a conference of 300 people from 40 countries. And it was to discuss this great age of Central Asia. And he likes to give speeches, as we know. And he presented a very carefully prepared speech at the beginning, in which he talked about Ibn Sina, among others, Biruni and so forth. And he said, Nash Ibn Sina. But then he very carefully and several times said, это не значит наш в узком смысле этого слова, это значит наш как общее наследство. Now this is something very new and very important. In Kazakhstan, I could give you exactly the same examples. Why are they so enthusiastically exploring their early past? Not as something separate from your early past or from Uzbekistan's early past, but as part of it. Similarly, Ashraf Ghani in Afghanistan, in 8 different speeches, has spoken about Central Asia's golden age. And he says this is our model for a future. Now, my impression is this. Yes, there is a kind of intellectual Mankurtism that exists in this region. But today, in 2015, there is a kind of новое течение. For the time being, it is not expressed on a political level, on a national political level. It is not expressed in terms of policy. They aren't ready to talk about it at that level. But there is a readiness now to embrace the idea of a regional identity and that isn't against national identity. It is a kind of, это как второй этаж на здании. And this, it seems to me, is extremely positive. On the second question that was raised, I think you have to distinguish between centrifugal and centripetal forces in Central Asia. Unfortunately, you are under great pressure. Centrifugal forces are very powerful. I'm not against any relation. I want good relations with everyone in every direction, not one direction. And this requires centripetal forces as well as centrifugal. And yet, you have no institutions for discussing regional problems without outsiders.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Thank you very much.